So with that, I will hand it over to Cyonic founder and CEO, Jeremiah Robison.
Awesome. Thank you, Anne, and thank you everyone for joining us today. I always love these sessions. One of the things that we committed to when we started this program was that we were going to do medical devices differently than they had been done in the past. And one of the big areas where we felt they could be improved is if we were continuously working to improve the product through software. That's my background. I am a computer science major in college, and I worked on algorithms throughout my career, really trying to figure out, one, how to understand what is happening in the human body, and then second, to influence it. And so if we click over to the next slide, Anne. Today, we're going to be talking about the various features that were launched with this release, and 1.16 is our fourth major release that we've pushed out to the public, really focused on a few different areas. One, how can we develop a broader toolkit for mobility to help with maximizing the ability for our device, which uses a combination of sensing and stimulation to address a wide variety, one, of customer needs, and two, of different customer conditions, whether that be adding in stairs or adding in new exercises, or tracking progress over time. So we're going to talk through a number of those features. And if you'll click to the next slide, one of the things that I think is really powerful about software and also challenging is, as we continue to develop features and functionality, a lot of other device companies will wait until the next version of the device. And we really structured our whole program where, as much as possible, if the features don't rely on new hardware functionality, that we can actually roll those out and into the community as quickly as possible, giving all of you who are on this journey with us those features as soon as possible. So I'm really excited to introduce our head of product, Domenico Pisaturo, who's going to walk through the first set of those features. Domenico, over to you.
All right. Good morning, afternoon, everyone. So the first main feature in this new release is the monthly progress report. So at the end of the month, starting from June, you will receive this report that will show all your progress inside the app for the last 30 days, so for the previous month. The report is structured in two main areas. One, that is your report for all your walking activities, so like when you're in gait support mode. And it will show like the activity time during the days in which you use the sleep, the gait speed that you have during those days, and like a table that allows you to compare week over week your improvement. You see that here, like in the picture you see on the screen, there are some bars in blue and some in green. The one in green are actually your best performance during those 30 days. If you just focus on the walking, as you can see on the top, you will have the summary of an average of all your gait activities throughout the month. Two quick graphs, one on the activity time and one on the gait speed. I just want to remember everyone that the activity time is different from the time you wear the sleeve. The activity time is calculated just on the time that you actually move when you wear the sleeve. So like it may be less than the time you actually are on the gait support, because probably you're seated or you're not moving. And then you see at the bottom, you see that table. The table is all the metrics that we track, and with those metrics, you can actually see a delta from the previous week throughout the month, so that you can see if you actually improved in your performance. The second part of the report is dedicated to the exercise. So also here we take all the exercise you've done throughout the month will be listed into that table that you see at the bottom. And at the top instead, there will be a summary of the metrics and the averages for the 30 days that have passed. Again, the table at the bottom allows you to see like week over week how you improved in your exercises and also like show like the amount of repetition that was done for every exercise. The last part is just like informative and is about explaining how do we consider those metrics. So what is exactly a stride length? What is exactly a gait speed? Hopefully like it's already clear for you guys, but like, you know, just having it there in case like you also share with your physician, at least like they have a reference of what we include in those measures, how we consider those measurements.
Domenico,
So,
do you mind just reiterating
Yes.
how people will receive the report?
Yes, you will receive an email the first Monday of the month with a link for looking at your report. And that will happen every month, every first Monday of the month. Okay, so one other feature that we added, actually it's two features that we added like this for this release. Well, the first one is a detailed report of all the activities. So you guys have already seen the history screen where you can see like the summary of all the activities, but now when you scroll down, you can tap on any of the activity and you will have like details of all the metric for that specific activities and they're clustered by day. Now, one important thing, and here the movie will go on, but I'm a bit slower. If there is, sometimes like we receive emails saying, oh, you know, I did my gait support like 2 weeks ago, and the parameters were really good, and I wanna like re-have those same parameters. Can you send me those parameters so I can put them back? So now there's no more need. Like you can go in the activities for which you want to restore the parameters. You click on that small button called repeat that is on the top right, and automatically will restore parameters of that specific activity and start the activity itself. And you can do that both for gait support and or for any exercise that you've done in the past 30 days. So we hope that that one helps you, like in case like, you know, like you've been playing with the parameters, and we want you to play with those parameters because like, you know, they're it's important for you to get familiar with how those parameters impact your performance and comfort and so on. So but sometimes like, you know, then you don't remember what was the initial settings for those parameters. So in this case, you can just like go back to that activity and press on repeat, and will automatically restore the parameters for that specific activity.
Great.
So I think that was all for my side.
Yes. Yep. So now we'll transition to the new exercises. So we've had a lot of questions on the exercises, you know, from the community, and these were created really in response to really strong community feedback. I think what you'll find about our team is we're always listening to all of you about how we can enhance the product and enhance the offering to make it as valuable for you as possible. And so these next exercises have been some of the most requested from the community. And we'll be doing a demo with two of our mobility specialists. So some of you may know them. So here we have Adam, and then let me add Alex as well. And the two of them are going to give you a tutorial of the new exercises.
So I'll kick it off. Thank you, Anne. Hi, everyone. My name is Alex. I'm one of the mobility specialists here at Cyanic. And really to start off, I'd like to just say that there are a lot of benefits when it comes to doing physical activity. A lot of the benefits you're going to see listed here on the screen, but what I really want to touch up on is how exercise plays a role in your activities of daily living. These activities can include tasks such as walking, cleaning your home, feeding yourself, bathing. And now there are a variety of ways to exercise, and it's going to look different from person to person. So as long as you have the ability to move, you should try to challenge yourself. And the more you move and the more you challenge yourself, the stronger you're going to get. And as you get stronger, eventually these tasks that you do on a daily basis, they're going to be easier to manage and feel less like a chore. So with that being said, these exercises that we're introducing today, they're meant to be based on real life situations. So it's going to improve your functionality, your quality of living, and we're going to dive deeper into sit-to-stands, squats, step-ups, swing-ups. We'll also give you a step-by-step demonstration on what to expect when doing the exercises and then what you'll get out of the neuro sleeve, and then we'll wrap it up with a conclusion. Yep. So first, the sit-to-stand is basically a change from a sitting position to a standing position. If anything, this is the most functional exercise I would imagine. So anytime you get out of a chair or you're done using the restroom, you're transferring from chair to chair, you really can't avoid this movement. And I will say this too, all the exercises that we have today have relatively the same benefits, but you're going to see improvements or sustainability in your mobility and independence. And you can also see your strength and strength improvements in your lower extremity and your core musculature too. And I want to say this, there's a lot of muscles that play a role in the sit to stand, but the one that the sleeve specifically is going to address is going to be the quadriceps. And these are just my quadriceps settings that I have. Majority of times, I will say all of the boxes will be on, but if you are concerned that your settings don't look like this, definitely reach out to your mobility specialist and see what's the best fit for you. And then this is just my intensity. I prefer it at 25, but it can vary from person to person. And then how to perform the sit to stand. I like to just break it up into 3 easy phases. First phase being, have a chair, set up your foundation, and then, have your arms on your lap. And you can use an assistive device if needed. So grab your walker or grab another chair and put it in front of you. And then step 2, shift your weight forward, and then you can use your arms and you can push off of the chair. And then step 3, using your feet and your arms, you're going to push to the ground and stand up nice and tall. But I am going to demonstrate now. So I'm going to move my camera. And how does this view right here, Anne, is that good?
Yep, looks great.
Perfect. So just going all the way back to step 1, to really explain this into depth, you want to set up your foundation first. So make sure your feet aren't too far out in front of you or staggered. They should be parallel with each other. You can have your feet hip width apart. Personally, I like to do shoulder width. I like a wider base. And from there, you can start with your hands on your laps. If you have an armrest, you can also put your hands there as well, but I'll start on my lap. And for moving on to step 2, this is where a lot of individuals may struggle. As they shift their weight forward, they might try to stand up too quick. And a lot of times what you'll see is they kind of plop backwards. So in order to prevent that, what you want to do, you want to try to shift your weight far enough forward so that your nose goes over your toes. And as your nose is going over your toes, you're loading up your foot, and then your hip comes off of the chair. That's your cue to begin to initiate the stand. And as you're doing this, the quads or the sleeve is going to begin to fire, and it's going to try to extend your knee. So what you want to do, you want to try your best to work with it and stand up. But that really completes or does half of the movement. So you want to work your way back down too. After you pause for a couple seconds, you begin sitting down again. You can reach back for the armrest if needed, or you go hands on your laps. The sleeve is going to kick on again, and it's going to stay on until you are able to safely control yourself and sit back down. And what I do want to say too is the whole time I'm doing the movement, one of the tips I mentioned is that I'm engaging my core the whole time. So by engaging my core, I'm just able to maintain my posture and balance. And then watch out for your knees as you're doing this. At any point of the movement, your knees should not be touching each other or collapsing. We call it a knee valgus. And if it is, just make sure you keep it apart so that you can do it safely and that it doesn't prevent or cause any stress on your knees in the future. But that sums up the sit to stand.
I'm actually going to make your screen just a little bit larger. So now that you've gone through the demo once, will you just do it one more time? I'm going to remove the spotlight for Adam so that everybody's just seeing Alex. Do you mind just doing it one more time? Thank
Sure.
you.
Okay, starting from the beginning. All right, so again, I'm setting up my foundation. Make sure your feet are parallel with each other. You could go hip or shoulder width apart, and you can go hands on your laps. And from here, I'm going to initiate my, shift my weight forward and try to get my nose over my toes. And as my nose goes over my toes, my hips comes off of the chair. The sleeve will then kick on to try to extend my knees. So I'm working with it to push my hips forward as well. And then you'll work your way back down. From here, the quad stimulation will kick on again to help safely lower my hips to the chair. And then I will finish the movement there.
Great. And we did get one question about this movement, which is, do you all have any advice for if someone has weak glutes, what you would recommend or any modifications you would recommend?
Yeah, I could take this one. If anything, this ties a role into the next exercise too, but you can increase the height of the chair and start at a higher elevation. So then you can work without having to squat down too far. If you do sit to stands or squats that are too low, it's going to be difficult to get up. Yeah. And then for the advanced sit to stands, the only difference between this one is that your arms are across the chest so that you're solely relying on your legs and your core to perform the movement. So you don't have the ability to stabilize with your arms. You're going to perform the same movement, if anything, it's just your arms will be across your chest the whole time.
And Alex, can you just recommend who that would be appropriate for as people are thinking about their own mobility and the types of gait protocols that they're assigned? Do you have any, can you provide guidance?
Yeah, I think so. For advanced sit to stands, this is going to be targeted for people with less limitations. So, if you're on gait context versus the other modes, I would say I definitely recommend it for you guys.
Great. All right.
And then
Now, yeah, go ahead.
the squats, it's very similar to the sit to stand. If anything, you're just working you're starting from the top portion and then you're just lowering your hips to the ground by bending your knees and standing back up. A lot of the functions and the benefits remain the same, and you're going to stimulate the same muscle group as well, which are going to be the quads. And then breaking it up into phases again, start with an object in front of you. In this case, I'm going to be using my chair next, but you can use your walker rollator, or you can also use like a kitchen sink too. You're going to then hinge your hips and bend your knees. And on to step 3, you're going to finish the movement by pushing through the ground using your feet. And then I'll set myself up again. So again, a lot of the same tips apply to the sit to stand and the squats. Again, like bracing my core and setting up my foundation. What I do want to add though is I am thinking about 2 things. Thinking about an invisible chair and my range of motion. So your invisible chair is going to be set at different heights depending on your ability levels. Some people may only be able to squat here. Others will be able to squat at a greater depth. I'll say start at a range that's comfortable for you. If you try to squat too deep, too fast, too soon without having the tolerance or ability to get yourself back up, it could potentially lead to a fall, injury, or you get stuck in this position. So just squat to a range of motion you're comfortable with, get stronger from that position, and as you get stronger, increase that depth. I want to say too, as you're using your assisted device, watch out for how much pressure you put on it. If you put too much pressure, there's a chance it's going to tip over and you'll fall back. So think about putting 90% of the weight through your feet, maybe 10% through your hands. So going back to step one, I'm setting up my foundation. My hand placement is here, and my feet is about shoulder width apart. I'll then begin the movement by hinging my hips and bending my knees. And the stimulation will begin to kick on as I'm hinging my hips. It'll stay on for about 3 seconds. And then once I hit my invisible chair, which is about right here, it's going to feel like it's ramping up. And I'm going to do my best to push my hips forward while it's trying to straighten out my knees. You'll do that for repetitions, right? And if this is too easy for you, you can work on going lower, right? Or you can even let go of the chair and go arms across your chest, but do not feel like you have to let go of the chair. Just make sure you are safe when doing this exercise.
Great. And then Alex, do you mind sharing, there was a question, how many sets or reps as a goal, as people think about the right program for them?
Yeah, I would say it's very individualized for everyone. And depending on your ability level, maybe one set is taxing enough for you. And sometimes you might, have to do at least 3 to 4 sets to feel some stimulus. So it's different for everyone, but I would say definitely reach out to, myself, Adam, or Dylan for a training consultation. We can discuss that further.
Great. Thanks. And then I'm going to bring Adam, pin him as well. Here we go. All right. And then one additional question, which was, as people are thinking about the sit to stand action, and if they're going between, they're deciding on advanced, in terms of hand positioning for the advanced, do you recommend having the arms crossed on the chest the entire time? Or for some people, like, would you advise kind of making the modifications you need as you're going?
Adam, you want to take this one?
Sure. It's really up to preference. This is a standardized assessment position. So for like your 30-second sit to stand, it'll tell you to go here. If you feel comfortable going here, it's gonna be fine. But if you're someone with like a short torso who can't lean forward enough to get their weight shifted forward, then sometimes I advise you stick the arms out here. So it's really going to be up to preference and depend on your body type as well. No, there's no problem with sticking your hands out here. Especially there could be other limitations such as tight calves that refrain from getting your weight forward, that you might need that extra weight shift with the arms to get out in front of you.
Thanks. There actually is a question. I realized that we didn't do really formal introductions aside from your names. Do you all mind just sharing both of your backgrounds? Before you became mobility specialist at Psyonic, the work that you were doing?
You're muted, Alex.
You could go first.
Okay, so prior to this, I was working at a small fitness company called Movement Revolution in Chicago, where we specialize solely in creating long-term exercise programs for people with neurological conditions. So we worked with all sorts of neuro conditions, from Parkinson's to MSA, of course, MS, stroke, spinal cord injury, any condition you can think of, and just really bridging the gap between physical therapy and what the research says on long-term exercise and how it can benefit people with neuro conditions. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
And I actually also worked at that same clinic with Adam. And a lot of what we did, actually, we specialized in boxing. I know that kind of sounds intimidating, but boxing was like heavily involved for people with neurological conditions. It's challenging your balance, your coordination. There's a huge cognitive aspect that comes to it. And it's gonna, work on your power too. But yeah, I've been, helping the neurological population for, I would say, since 2020, and I've been loving it ever since.
Great. Thank you. A few more questions about these exercises. So one question, can the sit to stands and squat be used for wall sits and wall squats? Adam, what about you? Do you want to take that one?
It's hard because a wall squat is a static exercise. Usually you can do like a wall slide. I could see that being, if you have like the ability to slide up and down the wall and time it with the quadricep. It's very similar to the sit to stand. Yeah, as far as a static hold, I don't think so. We would have to change the timing on it and have it hold longer. So it probably wouldn't match up too well with that.
And then just two more questions on that topic. One, does doing wall sits provide the same benefit as squats as you think about the muscles? You spoke to that a little bit, but if you could go into a little more depth.
Alex, you want that one?
I would say it does, but there's a couple of different ways your muscle contracts. In regards to what the sleeve is doing, it's concentrically contracting and eccentrically contracting the muscle. So it's either your more force is applied to your body or you're applying greater force. When you are doing like wall squats, the force remains the same throughout you and the body. It's another way to contract the muscle, but a slightly different variation.
And Anne, can I jump in?
Yes, please do.
The spotlight, but
here we go.
All right, wrong. One of the things that brings up, which I think is really important, and why this particular set of exercises is the focus for this release, is that it's not just about strength; it's about coordination of a complex movement. It doesn't necessarily seem like it, but the body is doing a whole bunch of work to get you out of the chair. And a lot of the times of the challenges that we see when people have an injury or lesions within the central nervous system is that sequencing of the complex movements can be really difficult. While you may be able to do a static exercise, like some of the ones that we had originally, the first set of exercises that we shipped, which were a knee extension, for example. So that's going to strengthen the quad, but you're not coordinating the quad with other movements. And so this release really is about trying to bring more of those complex multi-muscle functional movements into play. And so I'm excited that Alex and Adam are able to demonstrate these, and we're also excited to see how they impact not just strength, but also the coordination of these movements for all of you over time.
Great, thanks, Jeremiah. And then just one general question, let's see, so somebody's asking about the sit to stand and the squats. Are only the quads stimulated, so none of the other muscle groups, if somebody wants to just clarify?
Yes, only the quads are going to be stimulated for the sit to stand and the squats.
Great. And then one additional question was, what angle should your upper body be at during a squat?
That relates back to your torso length, your tibia length, and your femur length. So if you have a long torso, you're going to shift very little and your head's going to be a lot more forward. If you have a short torso, you're going to be more bent over. So for example, I use my wife as this example all the time because when we sit down, we're the same height. When we stand up, she's about 2.5 inches taller than me. Her leg length and her femurs and her shins are so long that when she squats, in order to get her to make up for that leg length of the femur, she has to bend way over because her torso ratio is pretty low. Whereas me, I can sit a little more upright and just squat right up.
Great. And then there's a question, is this, I believe this is in relation to the squats, a timed exercise or initiated at a user pace?
So at a user pace, I would say definitely use muscle activated simulation, and you can better control the tempo of the movement. But when you do timer activation, it sets a cadence for you.
Yep, and so both are available. Okay, great. Why don't we head to the next exercise? So I will bring up the presentation one more time. All right. And here we go.
All right, we're going over, good afternoon, everyone. It's me, Adam. We're going over our step-ups. All right, so the cool thing about the step-ups is that we're working on the sleeve leg to help push through a step and get the non-sleeve leg up to the step. So the cool thing about this is that you're bearing a lot of weight in that one leg. And if you have a weak leg, this is a good way to improve on that imbalance and strengthen it. I work on a lot of unilateral exercise with my one-on-one clients, and we do similar activities to this to help bridge the gap between their not so strong leg and their strong leg. The focus of this is the quadriceps as well as the shin, and they will not be firing at the same time. So the shin will be responsible for firing when you lift your foot up to the step and when you pull your foot down from the step. And the quad will be active when you raise your body weight up to the step and lower your body weight to the step. Sorry for the incidental fireworks there. So we can go on to the next page and we'll watch a little video for the demonstration. Perfect. And again, and if we can get like a shot of raising up, just so I can go through the sequence again. So when we just, yep, right about there, you can see that you're going to need to lift those toes to get the foot to clear. So the TA is going to contract there until you get your foot up there. And then as you're actually stepping up, and this is going to be a callback to what Alex was talking about, you notice I shifted my weight forward, my nose over my toes again. Yep, perfect. And that quad's going to be on. And then you can just reverse this part, and because now as I lower, the quad's going to go on as I step down. And then if we go back to the left even more, and the shin will kick in there. And this is just available in timer activated stimulation. So it'll walk you through that. Well, there's also the biofeedback, which has no stimulation. So if you need assistance with that, you can reach out to us, but it'll walk you through these phases. It's a pretty complex movement, and it's a really, really good way to strengthen your sleeve legs stability aspect. As you can see, I am holding on. We always encourage you to use assistance if needed or if you're unsure. I'll talk a little bit more about steps when we go through the actual step height, that is, when we go through the swing ups phase. So now if we go to the next exercise, the swing up. Perfect. So this is going to be a little different. We're focusing on the hamstring and the shin, and we're focusing on getting the foot up. So that means we're going to step up with our non-sleeve leg first. Then as we start moving to bring our sleeve leg up to the step, the shin and the hamstring will fire to help, one, bring up the toes, and two, bend the knees. And we'll go to the next slide for the demonstration. Perfect. All right, let's go. If we can go to the beginning where have that foot up, the non-sleeve leg. So the big difference between the two, swing up, the non-sleeve leg is going to go up first. Yep. That shin then kicks in, that shin stimulation, that hamstring stimulation kicks in to help bend the knee and lift the toes to clear the step. Okay, so the main difference between the two is when we do our step up in the app there, it's going to have you go with the sleeve leg on first, and you're primarily going to be focusing on pushing into that step to get your non-sleeve leg up. The swing up is more focused on the swinging motion of getting it up onto the step, which is going to be challenging for some people that aren't used to stepping with their affected side or their non-affected side first. But it's a good way to get practice on the sleeve leg, really stabilizing your body weight. So it's a really, really good exercise to start challenging that weaker side to bear your body weight, because as we go through life and we know one side it's much harder to do something on that side. To quote my colleague Dylan, we're always going to look for the path of least resistance. And this is how we challenge that leg to grow, but also going back to what Jeremiah said, coordinating a very, very difficult yet functional and essential movement. So I'm really excited for these exercises. Fun fact, this is the same shirt I wore when I shot this. So that concludes the step up and the swing up overview.
Thanks, Adam. One question, someone's asking, typically they don't turn on their shin electrodes because their TA is fairly strong. Do you need to turn on the TA or the shin in order to effectively utilize these exercises?
No, you can keep the TA off and just utilize the hamstring. Some people get really or have more issues with if someone walks with like a straight leg and they swing their leg, no matter how much dorsiflexion you get, if you don't bend your knee much, your heel is probably still going to drag, even if your toes are up. So having the hamstring on and practicing this with your own active hip flexion can help develop a really solid motor program that can promote like clearance of objects and stepping up of stairs and whatnot. So no, you don't need the shin on, but I would recommend at least being able to use the hamstring.
Great. Adam, a general question. Can you share about balance and how the use of the neural sleeve, how that it impacts balance?
Yes. So think of it this way: if we have a leg that's constantly like giving out when we put our weight on it, that means the opposite leg is going to want to be on the ground real fast. So I end up taking really short steps because I can't stabilize or balance on my unstable leg. So what this does is it forces you to stand on one leg and perform these movements. So an essential musculature for balance, such as your glute med, your glute, and of course, the big leg muscles, hamstrings and quads and all that. It forces those to do the work. Anytime you pick up one leg, the other leg is going to be forced to stabilize. And just in general on balance, make sure, and I'm going to talk about the height of the stool too. Make sure you have something nearby just in case you need something to stabilize on. And then, of course, if you're strong enough and coordinated enough, you can do it without assistance, but definitely have something nearby to hold on to. And take into account the height of the step. I think average stairs are about 6 to 8 inches, but you can purchase steps like the ones from the PT clinics that are about 4 inches. So if you're just getting into stepping up onto something, I would recommend starting with like a 4-inch platform and working your way up until you get to a standard stair height.
Great, thank you. And there are a lot of questions here. Maybe I'll actually stop the share and I'll bring Alex and Jeremiah in as well, just to answer some additional questions. Let me just add everybody in here. Great, so there's one question, which is step-ups with two legs, actually quite a few questions about individuals who use 2 neural sleeves. and the kind of step ups versus swing ups. Jeremiah, do you want to take that one?
Yes. So what we recommend right now, so we're still working on integrating this into alternating patterns, but what we recommend now is that you would disconnect one of the sleeves or just turn off one of the sleeves to practice with one leg and then switch and practice with the other leg for now.
Great, thank you. We've had a few questions about these exercises and whether or not they may assist with hip flexion.
Yes, so not directly, obviously we're not stimulating the hip flexor, but coordinating that movement pattern with the swing up specifically is really going to help. Firing the hamstring at the same time you're firing your hip flexor, that's going to lead to functional clearance. And when you step up with one leg, it stretches the hip flexor on the other. So that can really initiate a stretch reflex and recruit that stretch reflex to get your knee up there. So yes, the one that's probably going to be the best for it is going to be that swing up exercise.
Thanks, Adam. One more question. What should the stimulation settings be for people with the shin on the impacted leg during the swing up exercise? And just in general, just guidance on the stimulation parameters for these new exercises and as a point of comparison to previous exercise protocol or gait protocol.
Got it. So yeah, again, it's going to vary, but I'm someone who tries to promote a good contraction in the exercise modes. Your exercise modes don't necessarily need to be the same as your gait patterns for those muscle groups. So if you maybe want to try to get a bigger contraction out of it. Of course, if it becomes too uncomfortable, it's going to be too stimulating, probably lock you up a little bit, stiffen up your body to where it's really hard to move smoothly through the movement. So I would say maybe slightly higher than your shin settings. Again, it's going to vary based on what kind of movement you get. And if you want more info on this, I'd recommend you just reach out to your mobility specialist.
Yeah, and I think it's a good reminder for everyone that it is very personal, right? Some individuals who have already asked questions like, well, my shin fires well, I can lift my toe, but I'm having trouble bending my knee. That's where we might focus more on the contraction of the hamstring to get a better knee bend. Some folks that say, well, I just actually want the biofeedback. And so there's always a progression, both in terms of what the sleeve does, starting with the most basic, which is timed stimulation, which is going to coordinate the movement on a timer, like Alex said, all the way to biofeedback, which is going to watch your muscles and how they fire and just giving you a meter on the screen that shares how your muscles are firing and when they're firing. And so whether that's, start with a 4-inch step and then move your way up, start with stimulation on both muscles and then see if you're able to clear your toe on your own. There's always a journey that everyone is on, and it is very individual. And our mobility specialists, great folks like Alex and Andy and Adam here to help you on that journey.
Great. There's another question about how much do you need to change your settings between, so if you have another exercise program, do you need to calibrate the device for each exercise?
As far as like the configurations or the calibration itself? Or...
Yeah, they said
maybe address both, Adam.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when you calibrate the sensors, if you do it properly, it's across the board, it's set. But for each exercise program, it's going to be different. You're going to want to calibrate configure each program based on the movement that's going on in that. So it won't like carry over from one to the next. I hope that addressed it.
Yeah, I'll give an example on that. And it is dependent upon the movement. So something like step ups in the stairs takes a pretty strong quad contraction to support the body up through that movement. Whereas gait will typically not require as much of a contraction to straighten the knee, which is the role of the quad in gait, straightening the knee through the swing phase. And so one of the things that as you experiment with these exercises for the first time is dialing in a contraction that works for the functional movement. So it may take a little bit of testing with a certain setting, and maybe, you know, knowing, and we could probably provide some guidance on this too, whether in a session with individuals, or we could put together some materials. Sure, what muscles are firing the most in each exercise, which you know, I think may not be obvious in all cases.
Great. We've had a few questions about when the exercises will be available. So coming out of this session, the exercises will be enabled for subscribers. There's actually also a post on the Cyonic blog, so you can go to blog.cyonic.com, and there's additional information about it, but they will be enabled. And we wanted to have this training session initially to introduce the exercises to everyone, and so then those will roll out shortly. So you can just refresh your app and they should be there, and then all the tutorial content will be in there, so you can watch it again, you know, adjust your parameters and get started. There have been a few questions about you know, whether these exercises could be used to climb the stairs versus doing the kind of single step. Does someone want to speak to that?
Yeah, I can speak to it. So once you're ready to make that progression, if you don't have the gait context mode enabled, that's another opportunity to reach out to your mobility specialist. So many times we'll start people who are not yet advancing on stairs with just the straight gait. The gait context actually adds in the stimulation parameters for stairs. And so part of this set of exercises that we added was for people who are saying, look, I want to get to using gait context and using it to go, you know, up and down the stairs and walk in the course of my daily life, but I'm not quite there. I need some help in either sequencing the movement or building the strength. So you can almost think of these exercises as a stepping stone to moving to gait context, which includes the stimulations for climbing up stairs.
Great. Thanks, Jeremiah. A lot of questions about knee hyperextension. Would any of these exercises be better for individuals or worse for individuals with knee hyperextension?
I could speak to this.
I was going to answer the follow-up question to that. So Alex, you take this one, and then I'll answer the follow-up question. When are we going to have more help for hyperextension in the knee? We're still working on it. We're still trying to figure out ways to activate the right set of muscles during mid-stance to prevent hyperextension. It's a really difficult problem, but maybe Alex, you can share which of these exercises might help build the strength to help avoid some of that hyperextension.
Yeah, definitely. So I would say the sit-to-stands, the squats, and the step-ups play a huge role in your quad control. You just want to make sure when you're doing these movements, you don't overextend the knee so that it contributes more to the hyperextension. So just work in like a range of motion that limits you from going from your knee from snapping all the way back. But either one of those treatments should be fine.
I think that's a really interesting point, because there are two different mechanisms by which the knee can hyperextend: an overfiring of the quadriceps and a passive motion. Most of the time in mid-stance during gait, during walking, it's actually passive. Your muscles are not controlling the knee, and so the act of the body momentum moving forward with the foot planted on the floor can cause that. And so in building up some of the strength and coordination, that might avoid the second type, which is that passive movement hyperextension.
Great. One more quick question. So for people who may have difficulty doing the step-ups or swing-ups without kind of hiking the hip due to weak hip flexors, do you recommend these exercises in this situation? And are there any modifications that would be recommended for individuals experiencing that?
My recommendation on that, and then Adam, you can tell you a little bit more from an exercise physiology perspective, is that some of the more basic exercises, specifically hamstring, the knee curls, where it's just a single muscle in static, will help to build up to that. So the first step in getting the foot up the stair is to be able to bend at the knee, and oftentimes that is due to weakness in the hamstrings. And so starting with that single muscle hamstring exercises can be a good first step on that progression.
Same. That's what I was going to recommend.
Great. Someone's asking a question around, building some bulk in their leg muscles. So, their left or the impaired leg was noticeably smaller than the right. What do we recommend for helping to kind of rebuild some of that muscle bulk?
For this, it's going to be slow eccentric movement. So controlling everything on the downward phase. That's been shown to cause little micro trauma. It sounds scary, but little tears in the muscles. That promotes a process called hypertrophy. And hypertrophy just means muscle gain. And so making sure you're very controlled on the descent phase for example, when Alex was doing the sit to stand, you saw he was going down very, very slow with very little impact. Bonus benefit of training like that, you build up your muscle control and your stability. So it's really good going up at a moderate pace, fast pace, whatever's safe, and then coming down slow, controlled, and then fatiguing the muscle out within reason, and making sure you're feeling that fatigue in the muscle bellies itself, not the joints, so you can recover effectively. That's been shown.
Yeah, and oftentimes what we've heard as feedback, if those complex movements, whether they be squats or sit to stand or the swing ups, if there's excessive fatigue because of the coordination and your focus is building bulk, again, those single muscle exercises, the calf raises, the toe raises, the quad and hamstring exercises are all great for starting to build up some of that muscle bulk as you work your way towards the more complex movements.
Great. A few questions about how to upgrade the app if you haven't already. So if you are an iPhone user, go to the App Store. If you're an Android user, go to the Google Play Store and you can search for Psionic to make sure you download the app. And then once you have your sleeve on and you open it, then you'll also get prompted to do a firmware upgrade. And at that point in time, you'll have all of the new software. One more question, does electrostimulation impede motor learning?
Adam, you want to take this one?
Yeah, is that Adam?
No, it can enhance it with the input. So that's how the sleeve works. During the gait program, it triggers the muscles and your mind begins to feel those muscles, and it's a cue for you to fire those muscles during that specific sequence. So it can enhance motor learning and coordination. The only thing that will impede motor learning for a lot of people, and I remind my customers all the time, is lack of mental involvement. So making sure that your mind is paying attention to these, especially initially when it's new. The more, I think Jeremiah kind of touched on it with this last point, but the mind-muscle connection is a true phenomenon where you're focusing on firing a very specific muscle in a very specific way. And working with the stimulation, where you get that tactile feedback in your leg, that actual feeling, that can enhance it.
Great. There's one question around how much they should wear the knurl sleeve, and is it a good thing to have, like how much time should you wear it every day? And is it a good thing to have fatigue the next day, was the question.
I'll start and then jump in. Again, it's always individual what the experience is like in terms of using it. I will say that within our user base, the folks who wear it the most are the ones who are reporting the biggest gains. And that goes for not just gait and wearing it for more of the course of the day where they are doing activities, whether that be shopping or working around the house or at their jobs, but also looking at those exercises and pinpointing specific deficits within your own motor movements that you want to work on and enhance. It's like anything else within working the body. Fatigue to a point is good. You don't certainly want to over fatigue the body, but that fatigue is a sign that you are building skills, you're building capabilities, and fully expect for it to happen, especially for you, new users. And we're going to do more customer AMAs like the one we did the last few weeks to share their experiences. But if your muscles have not been used and they are experiencing some atrophy, the first time you use the sleeve, it's going to be activating those muscles, and you'll probably get sore fairly quickly. And then over time, you're going to build endurance and build up greater capabilities within those muscles to allow you to go longer and further. And endurance is a big ask that a lot of people have. The first time you use it, don't expect to, use it all day and walk, 10 times further than you have in the past few weeks. But over time, we can start to build that up and build that endurance as your body starts to adapt and grow and strengthen and improve coordination.
Yeah, and Jeremiah, if I can add, so as you know, like every individual is different. So there are people that will react differently to the stimulation. We do have customers that need to take breaks between the use of the sleeve. So use the sleeve one day and not use it next one. Most of the time we realize that because like they say, oh, the sleeve today is not working. Sometimes like your muscle is so tired that the stimulation does not manage to activate the muscle. So those are the cases in which you need to take some breaks between the use of the sleeve so that your muscle can recover. As Jeremiah was saying, especially when there's atrophy, like it takes a while for your muscle to regain the original capabilities and be able to exercise and contract every day. In addition to that, we do not recommend to wear the sleeve for more than 8 hours a day. There's like also a skin component. Your skin needs to breathe. We do recommend it also in the user manual if you read through that, because like the hydrogel does not allow the skin to breathe, so you don't want to keep something on your skin for more than 8 hours and not allow it to breathe. So please limit the use of the sleeve to a maximum of 8 hours if possible.
Great. Domenico, there have been quite a few questions throughout about the cycle protocol. Do you mind talking about the cycle protocol for stationary bikes?
Yes, I'm not sure I'm the right person, but yeah, absolutely.
I can jump in and answer.
Yeah, Jeremiah, go ahead too.
Thank you.
And specifically for recumbent bike versus regular.
Yeah, so right now the program is developed only for upright bicycle. Thank you for reminding me, those folks out there who have asked for the recumbent bicycle program. We'll continue to work on that and try to bring that out. And it's just the amount of data that we've been able to collect on cycling on an upright cycle. So we'll have to go through a phase of collecting it on recumbent, and the exercise is focused on quadriceps and hamstring, and again that complex coordination of a pedal stroke, and it's to be used on a stationary bike. It is an exercise, and it's not to be used out on your road bike doing the Tour de France.
Exactly. And then I know we're just about at time and we're going to have to drop off in just a moment. But I guess one last question. So on the descent portion of the sit to stand, which muscles are involved?
There are a lot of muscles involved, but the one that the sleeve is addressing again is the quads. But the glutes are going to be firing. The core is going to be working too, to just make sure that you maintain your posture. And again, the quads too. But yeah, it's a full body movement, if anything, the way you look at it.
And the assistance that we're adding is really to try to control both the ascent and the descent, and that's largely the quadriceps that are controlling that. And what Alex showed with people sort of falling back or as they're descending into a chair or into a squat, their quadricep muscles turning off early and not easing them back into the chair is one of the main focuses of this particular exercise and the stimulation that we're providing with the sleeve.
Great. And if there's, I guess, just one final question, somebody had a question about carryover effect with the sleeve. Jeremiah, maybe if you want to speak to that high level.
We've certainly heard a number of reports where people have said, you know, I used a sleeve one day and then I take a break from it the next way, but I'm still feeling more strength and more confidence through those movements. And that, you know, when we talk about exercises and building up both the muscle bulk and the coordination, these are things that, as Adam was saying, you know, the holy grail, our goal, ultimate goal with the system is that the body starts to pick up some of these signaling patterns itself and can reproduce them without the assistance of the sleeve. And so we will often hear about carryover, and it's always exciting to hear that people are gaining capabilities even without the assistance of the sleeve.
Great. Thank you. And then there are some great product, you know, suggestions that we see here in the chat that we have captured. You know, requests for a rower mode, for more flexibility with the timing in the exercises. I don't know, Jeremiah or Domenico, if you want to speak to, you know, upcoming, you know, preview upcoming features.
No teasers. We're excited to get the feedback, and in not too many months we'll have another one of these where we announce the next set of features and walk people through. And you know, I look forward to that 5th big software release and all the improvements. And it is right, like sit to stand was a common ask, help with stairs was a common ask, better reporting was a common ask from people, and it's the easiest job in the world for product people when the customers are telling us what we want. We just have to go figure out how to make them all work. So thanks everyone. Thanks for all of the feedback. We'll answer any questions that we may have missed electronically, and I look forward to seeing you guys at the next AMA.